talk about the bigger picture. Let's talk about how we be ballin', playing with the Wizards. Let's talk about the Nats and how they always got good pictures. Let's talk about the cats on rescue, turn them boys to winners. Injuries and updates, oh yeah. To the opponent, we stand toe to toe, yeah. To the top, this podcast gonna go, yeah. I think it's something you should know, yeah.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Ref the District, episode 72. And I am a little disappointed this is just a duo, but I am happy to have Stoner back on the flagship program this week. And Trev was going to join us, but he had a last minute obligation that pulled him away. So we won't have Trev with us. But if you do want to see the three of us back together again, you can check out our video on YouTube where we go over the Washington Commanders themes for the home games of 2022. So that's right there on our YouTube channel. Of course, we are streaming this live on our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channel at 7:30 on Wednesday, but then we'll put this out on your favorite audio platform. So catch us wherever you get your podcasts, be that Apple, Google, Amazon, Spotify, wherever. We are there as well. We've got a great show for you. Of course, we're sponsored by Pacers Running. We're going to have a grab bag again in the cool down. We have JP Flaim from the Junks jumping on with us to talk OTAs, JDR, the whole just, we were thinking it might have been a slow week. It's not a slow week. The last 24 hours or so of the Commanders have just given us all sorts of content. We want to save a lot of the juicy parts for when JP is in. Make sure you get those comments in for JP if you have any. We got Doug, my mom, Ben, all in the chat already. Shout out to you guys. Thanks for joining us here. It's been a day, so we're gonna warm up with something we all can maybe circle around and get upset with, and that is a bad call in the baseball, college baseball. Stoner is going to bring up the atrocity that happened to Maryland baseball. So now, if you're a fan of our Washington Nationals, this will look actually kind of familiar to Trey Turner being called out as well. Hey, shout out Roger. Thanks for joining us today. Get into those questions for JP. Let us know what you think of the JDR saga. OTAs, we're going to be talking about Curtis Samuel missing practice today. Is that a big deal or is it not a big deal? EP says, cut him. Let him loose right now. Get rid of him. Let us know what you think about those situations in the comment section. You got the clip ready?
I believe I have the clip ready.
Okay. Now, so again, this is the clip of Maryland baseball. Atrocious call.
Yeah. Or is it? That's what we're going to talk about.
It is.
So, so we have, like you said, we have JP coming up. We're not burying the lead. The lead, everybody knows what the lead is.
We'll be talking about all that. We were just going to talk about that with our guests today.
Yeah. So there won't be any sound on this because that's how it keeps us out of trouble, right? So let's see if I can get this to work. All right. So I'm going to share. All right. Give me 1 sec. All right. Here, I'm kind of talking on the fly here. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. So do you see it?
We can see it. Blow it up a little bit. It's a little small.
All right. I don't know how to do that.
All right. Well, then don't worry about it, folks. We will narrate it for our audio
ready?
listeners here. So
all right, here's the play.
It's a tweet. The umpire called the runner out in the Maryland versus UConn game. How?
Okay, let's set it up. It's 10-8. UConn is beating Maryland. It's the top of the 8th. There is a runner on third and only one out. And Maryland is rallying. I think they were down 10-2 at one point. So they're rallying after a 13-inning or a 12-inning game the night before. And this is an elimination game. So this is a big deal. So, all right. So I'm going to hit the play and hope it works.
All right. Pitcher wound up. The ball is chopped is what I would call this. And there's a play being made at first. The ball is dropped.
Ooh,
however, the runner ran into the first baseman. That was part of the reason why the ball was dropped. And the runner was called out. And I believe the call, a run did score, but the call here is, like I said, the Trey Turner call, which was that he went outside the line. You're not allowed to run in the infield, I guess, is what the call is. And you correct me if I'm wrong, Stoner.
Yeah.
But there's things wrong with this that we had with the Trey Turner thing, right, which is, one, the first base is inside.
Okay, but he didn't get called out for that. He didn't get called out for running outside of the baseline or running in the wrong or in not a straight line.
Because he was running in a straight line.
Right. He got called out for running into the first baseman. He got called out for not avoiding the first baseman. And that's essentially what Trey Turner got called out for too. Because he ran
Trey
into
Turner's was
Verlander.
Trey Turner was most definitely that he ran outside like the designated run spot.
Well, all right. I mean, we can kind of go back and forth on that. But in this case, in this particular case, he got called out for running into the first baseman. Okay, which doesn't make sense. First of all, the first baseman did not catch the ball. It was a wild throw. Okay. The first base umpire.
Touched his glove, I think, right? It bounced off of his glove or something.
I don't think so. No. It went, the second baseman who's coming over, it went to him on a couple of hops. The first base umpire did not make that call. He called him safe. The home plate umpire came up the line and made that call. Now it is his call. Let's pull back the curtain a little bit. I did 3 years of umpiring at the high school level, and this wasn't that long ago. Okay. That is the home plate umpire's call. Before it gets to first base, that's his call for things like that. But the first base umpire called him safe. What is the runner supposed to do? That's what I haven't been able to understand yet. If he gets there and he runs into the guy who's standing on the bag, what else is he supposed to do? And that's what I didn't understand. And they ended up sending the runner back to third, so the run did not count. Because when you have a play like that, it's a dead ball. So everyone goes back to their base. So they lost that run, which would have cut it to 1. They lost the base runner at first, called him out. And Maryland ended up losing and getting knocked out of the NCAA tournament. And it was a darn shame. And I still haven't had anybody explain it to me successfully to where I understand it, that he should have been called out.
Dougford here says Maryland runner clearly running in fair territory to block the path of the throw to the first by the pitcher.
You want me to play that again?
Go ahead and play it again. I just don't know where else he's supposed to run. And this is the thing with Trey Turner as well. I don't get where, like, if you don't want them running in fair territory, don't put the bag in fair territory.
Yeah.
Now I understand that they have that separate bag in like little leagues and stuff for you to run on, but I mean, to me, there's some absurdity. Go ahead and play it again here. For those who are just joining us, we are going to get to the Commanders talk. So we do have JP Flaim from the Junks coming on, and we're saving a lot of the hot topics for that. I mean,
he was running to the line, maybe a step to the left, but I mean, you can't just run a straight line, perfect straight line. And I just don't understand it. I totally don't understand it. You see, the second baseman has the ball. Let's run it one last time.
So
you see him running right on the line. He takes a teeny tiny step inside the line, but that had nothing to do with the play. I don't get it. Whatever.
I don't even know that he necessarily knows where the pitcher is with the ball.
Yeah, he's just trying to get to first base, for crying out loud.
Doug again here. If he's in the runner's box, then there's no interference. It's that simple. So if he was on if he was on the outside line, it would have been fine. I don't know. I don't get it. I didn't get it when it happened to Trey Turner. I was up in arms.
I didn't get it either.
Over that, and I just not even a big Terps guy. But I just don't agree with that call. So,
and look, umpires get things wrong all the time, but there's a reason that you have.
It's very big of you to admit.
umpires out there so that somebody sees something different that you can talk it over and you can overturn an obvious mistake. Because you see this stuff happen all the time. I saw one that happened just last night where a guy was blocked at the plate coming to score, but the catcher didn't catch it cleanly. So the runner got up and patted home plate with his hand. The catcher ran and got the ball, tagged him out, and the umpire said he's
that's
out.
the one. Yeah, that's the one. This one here, right? The Michigan-Louisville game that Doug brought up. Got it wrong even after replay. Yeah, that one was pretty atrocious.
Oh no, the Michigan-Louisville game was a tag at second or something like that. Like a guy died.
I did see the one that you were talking about. That one was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Roger here with JDR needs to go. He isn't good anyways. Love B Mitch tearing him a new one. EP starting trouble already. Cut Curtis Samuel. These are topics that we're going to be talking about with JP Flaim when he comes on, joins us here in just a little bit. So get those comments in, get those questions in, so that way we can read those with JP. We're going to have those discussions, because we know that's what people want to talk about today. We know that's the hot button issues.
Sure,
that's the content that the team just keeps giving us.
Before we get there, let me ask you a quick question, if I may.
I'll give you a quick answer. Yeah.
I'm just gonna move the topic to a different area. Who wins the NBA Finals? It's one. Well, it's what is it? Is it 2-1? Is it 1-1?
It's 1-1.
Yeah, 1-1. They're in Boston, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who wins and why?
Boston, just because you're going to say the Warriors in 6, and Trev isn't here to defend his Celtics in 6 take. I despise the Warriors.
Why is that? Because all they do is win?
Because I'm a Thunder fan. I'm a Thunder fan.
Okay.
They took away our great player that we had and won championships.
They took away.
Okay.
He left voluntarily.
Fair. That's a fair assessment on how that went down. That's a fair assessment. But yeah, just not a big fan. The funny thing is, Stoner, I actually really loved the Warriors when they were the lovable losers. Like when they were just, they were kind of like the Suns a few years ago with Stoudemire and Stephen Nash. They were just fun to watch.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
The Warriors were fun to watch, and then they became dominant. And you're right, that's part of the reason why I didn't like them, because they became dominant. My number one team, the Thunder, are in the West, and they have to go up against that. The Thunder were up 3-1, and just really. Scott Brooks happened. And then KD leaves for them. So I have some disdain for them. My number 2 team being the Wizards. Maybe I should just not like the Celtics.
Yeah. Come on. Can't like the Celtics in any way.
Come on. Who really hates Bird? Larry Bird, the great. You hate Larry Bird. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Of course I hated Larry Bird.
Of course.
Because back in the 80s and early 90s, I was a Pistons fan. Okay, and we hated the Celtics and Larry Bird and McHale and Parrish and all those dominant players. We hated them. We had to get past them before we could go on to finally win a championship. So I think the Warriors just have too much talent. The game 1 was an aberration. There's no way that Boston is going to outscore Golden State. Like, what was that? 42-14.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. 40-14 or something.
Whatever
like that.
It was.
Not too far off. You're pretty close.
They're not doing that again, and they showed it in game 2. They're not going to allow that to happen. They're much more talented. They're experienced, and they're going to whoop up on Boston in 3 of the next 4 games, and it's going to be over. And it's that simple. They have more talent. You have the best shooter who ever played. You can't deny that. The best shooter. I'm not saying the best point guard. I'm not saying the best player, and some people were putting that out there. He's the best shooter who ever played. You have a top 10 shooter who's ever played in Klay Thompson.
He's not played well so far this series.
No, he hasn't, but don't worry, he will. And you've got Jordan Poole, an up and coming superstar, and you've got good old Draymond Green, who will do whatever it takes. If that means tackling a guy, if that means bulldozing people out of the way, it doesn't matter. He's going to do whatever it takes
Putting
to win.
His feet in people's face, all sorts of just wonderful, just absolute craziness that he
And of
does.
course, I love Draymond because he is a Spartan, and I'm a Spartan as well. So
Super
I
biased.
love him. And my sister was telling me today, Draymond is her all-time favorite Spartan. And I said he might just mess around and make the Hall of Fame. He might. He might just mess around and make the Hall of Fame. Here's the stat.
Take off the Spartan glasses for a second. Here's not
the stat
making the Hall of
my
Fame.
sister sent me. All right, you ready? All right, here it is. Last night, Draymond Green joined LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and Scottie Pippen as the only players to rank in the top 10 all-time in finals in assists and steals. That's pretty good company to be in. Draymond Green, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Magic Johnson.
Yeah. But how super specific did you have to get to that? You had to be like in the finals, and of course, he's being dragged there. He's a role player. He's not making the Hall of Fame. Shout out to my mom for the super sticker there on our YouTube chat. We do have the super chat that's open, and always appreciate anything that comes through there. We do have JP doing some yoga down in the backstage here. We're going to have him come on, and we're going to be talking Washington Commanders, all those hot button topics that you guys are just dying for us to bring up. All that's coming up here on The Game. The Game is brought to you by Pacers Running Stores. Pacers has 6 stores in Northern Virginia and DC. For the best running footwear, apparel, and gear, just stop by or schedule a virtual fitting with the best running experts in the business. Pacers Running exists to help as many people as possible through running. For every run, it's Pacers Running. Thanks for sticking with us here as we're going to be talking Washington Commanders, some OTA action. Curtis Samuel on the sideline again. JDR just dusting it up with his comments. All that's going to be with our guest today from 106.7 The Fan, the Junkies, and also author of Still Barkin'. Welcome to the channel, friend of the channel, JP Flaim from the Junks. Thanks, John Paul. It looks like you're muted because you definitely mouthed something there, but we didn't quite hear you.
Still muted.
Still cannot hear you.
Tech issues. We're working on it.
I'm going to assume this comment from EP here is not on JP and his technical issues. We're not going to cut him. This is Curtis Samuel. She's ready to just absolutely can Curtis Samuel. Thanks. Shout out to DMV Sports Zone. We'll let JP down and we'll let him figure out some of those tech issues. He is wearing that Maryland thing. We'll have to get his take on that call. So we'll see if he can figure out the tech issues, and he'll give us a thumbs up or write it in the private chat when he does. Shout out DMV Sports Zone. We love having you guys on and chatting up with you guys. Thanks for joining us here today. What do you guys make? Let's start with what do you want, Stoner? Do you want to start? Which of the hot button topics do you think we should kick it off with?
Can't bury the lead. We have to talk about the JDR situation that just blew up. I mean, there's no getting around. That's the biggest story. I mean, that made national news. That was all over the national newspapers / Twitter sphere out there. So we got to talk about JDR first, right?
I'm self-muted myself. Yeah, it seems like we do have to talk about JDR. We do have JP sitting in the background here. We're going to pull him back up and see if his mic issues were fixed. They are not fixed.
No. Try going back out.
He's going to jump on his phone. I could read his lips. He'll jump on his phone, and he'll be back in a little bit.
All right. So let's start.
Yeah, for those who are not familiar with the situation, which if you aren't, I envy you. I really do.
I know, right?
I absolutely hate people. I really do. People from JDR's Jack Del Rio tweeted out some things of a certain viewpoint. that people disagreed with. Okay, stop me if I'm ever wrong here. I'm trying to be as objective as possible.
Half
right?
the people disagreed with him.
I wouldn't even say half. Yeah.
The people who commented
to it.
People don't comment on Twitter by saying things like, yeah, you're right. That's not how Twitter works. Twitter works when people have to get on there to say mean things or to disagree with you, right? That's what Twitter does. So when I say half the people agree with what he said and half the people disagree, I'm just using that in the broad context of Americans and his political views, because it's a political tweet.
It was very political. Yeah.
Right. So what did he say in his original political tweet? Because I think it's important to not kind of get things out of context, or like some people I know kind of projecting on what he's saying rather than what he's actually saying.
I didn't project anything. I made a prediction for what's going to happen.
Right. Which
definitely different there.
Which when you did that, you discounted what I said based on what you think is going to happen. And that part I don't think is fair. All right.
So here's some of these tweets. I'm gonna scroll in a little bit so that way people can see it. So here's one of the ones that people I know this is one of them. We're gonna go down in the reverse chronological order here. So Jack Del Rio says, yeah, sure, with the Pinocchio emoji. Mm-hmm. And there was a response to someone tweeting out, Black people begging agents of the state to stop executing them, white men trying to overthrow the results of a democratic election and violently assaulting cops. Same thing, according to Dan Snyder's defensive coordinator. And that was because of his tweet, which I think was let's see here.
Well, go back to the one where he says, sure, or whatever, because I think it's attached to that one.
It's attached to that one. So, here we go. So Jack Del Rio had commented on a tweet that from Norm Eisen, as the 1-6 committee hearings draw near, we must understand the whole story of January 6th. In our new Brookings Gov report, we offer a guide including potential federal and state criminal charges for Trump and his allies. Mm-hmm. And Jack Del Rio tweets, would love to understand the whole story, in quotes, about why the summer of riots, looting, burning, and the destruction of personal property is never discussed, but this is... hashtag common sense. And then the Miles Grant comment was the one that people, Black people begging for agents. That was the one I previously read. So that was the one that people got up in arms with, right? That's where this kind of all started snowballing last night.
Right.
And then how do you want to give your kind of take for that on how that or you want to go into more of the facts of what happened, which was he was asked at training camp.
Well, that obviously brewed up some controversy with people saying obviously he has a certain view of what happened on January 6th, and a politically incorrect view. Politically incorrect in what he's saying. It may be a correct view in his mind. It's his truth, but he took a lot of heat for that. And so during practice today, OTA practice today, reporters on the scene asked him about that tweet, and he doubled down in what he said, and he called the January 6th situation, whatever you want to call it based on your political view, a dust up at the Capitol. And we all know it wasn't a dust up. Okay. So that was
certainly not a dust up.
That got the world spinning, right? That got the world spun up. Let's see if we can bring in JP. I think he looks like he might be ready.
Looks like he's ready, and he can add to the commentary here.
We have audio.
I'm nervous.
Yes.
There we go. We in fact have some audio this time, so that's good. JP, thanks for jumping on here with us and fighting through some of those technical difficulties that you had. I'll give you
I'm using the exact same things on the phone that I did on the laptop, and yet the phone seems to be working. But look, I heard you guys talking about. I didn't know he became JDR. How long has Jack Del Rio been JDR? That's
Yeah.
kind of a cool sounding name for a guy who's been a mediocre coordinator.
Yeah, I think when he's become more popular and people are having to type out his name, they don't want to always type out Jack Del Rio. Yeah. So, hey, let's just shorten it. Now
when you're tweeting about like dust ups, you got to keep it short and simple. JDR kind of fits a little bit better in 100 and so many characters that you get for Twitter. But
I think when you guys were reviewing the tweets, you guys skipped over kind of his drunken tweet. I'm assuming he was drunk a couple weeks ago. His response when he threw in the old D's nuts.
Yeah, it was bite D's. It was bite D's.
Something like that.
Because somebody called him nuts.
Because I think a lot of people actually kind of enjoyed that. I think people kind of rallying behind, and it was like, oh, I love that he's kind of open and honest with, he's just kind of getting in there. I mean, he was
one of the
trying.
Guys.
He was defending John Allen, and he went further. Did that in a different tweet where he defended John Allen in a lot more words than just bite D's.
Right.
But I do think people enjoyed the bite D's, and then it was kind of like a full 180 with these tweets where it went political, and of course, there's the divide within this country, and certain people didn't quite care for those, and of course,
it's also the timing. Look, he's on one end of this political spectrum. Tomorrow night, 8:00, there's going to be a national show essentially about January 6th. Yeah. He's on the opposite side of the investigative committee. So he puts it out there. But I heard John Allen talk today about it. Mm-hmm. And he said, don't care about his views. I care about his preparation as a defensive coordinator. And I think that that's really how the fan base should feel. Now we know people getting their feelings about politics. I know on our show, diverse opinions. Mm-hmm. We try and stay away from politics. Mm-hmm. It's not helpful. And I don't think Jack Del Rio is helping his cause, but if somehow he revives this defense and they're the number one defense in the league, the fans aren't going to care what he said. It's his opinion. You can disagree with it, but you're going to want to kind of have a defense that is flying around, this great defense. And as John Allen said, don't care about his political views, care about what he does on his job.
Yeah, that's also assuming that he's going to be here to coach that defense, right? That if this thing doesn't continue to blow up and cause him to lose his job. I don't think this is job losing worthy, but also whether he's going to be able to last 6 games with a terrible defense out there. He's going to be the scapegoat partly because of his political views. It's hard for people, I think, to understand. He stood up there in a Washington Commanders coaching uniform and called the Capitol insurrection, riot, whatever you want to call it, called it just a little dust up. And that doesn't look good, in my opinion, for the Washington brass to have a guy who represents them saying something like that that's politically incorrect.
And you are correct. You're absolutely correct. But it does seem like Ron Rivera, at least to this point, has his back.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, it's going to come down to job performance. But I totally agree with you. When I heard dust up, it's like, people died. It was beyond the dust up.
Right.
Yeah, five people died, yeah.
In the end, I keep going to it. It really is about production.
Agreed.
You called him mediocre.
Interesting. We've been talking a lot about Carson Wentz on the show and the defense. I'm wondering what your guys' take is, your expectations for this defense, because offensively they draft Dotson in the first round. They obviously make the big splash move, bringing in Carson Wentz.
Mm-hmm.
But defensively, they really didn't do much. They lost a couple guys, depth guys on the defensive line. They did draft Mathis, but what are your expectations for the defense?
Expectations, I actually think they're going to be better. And like you said, they really haven't done anything to the defense. In fact, they've lost more than they've gained in terms of impact players. When you lose Collins, Settle, and Ioannidis, and you only basically get Mathis to cover that. But I don't think they have to be, because they're not going to be facing Russell Wilson, Josh Allen, Tom Brady, who are the other guys they had? Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. They're not facing those guys. They're going to face Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields and Davis Mills and Marcus Mariota and Jared Goff. So they're going to be playing the same type of quarterbacks that they played 2 years ago when they had a top 5 defense. So I think that bodes well for him. And then what Carson Wentz does is he's going to be able to sustain longer drives and be able to keep that defense a little bit fresher. Where how many times, what was it last year with Taylor Heineke and the first drive of the game? If you remember, I think they went 14 straight games that they didn't score on the first possession, or they went 3 and out or whatever it was. I mean, they were in this all-time record territory of not scoring on the first possession. And that helps the defense maybe just a little bit. But I think it's going to be a much improved defense just simply based on who they're playing.
I don't know about much improved, but I do think some of those points, like the offense improving, if the offense improves the way we're expecting it with Dotson and Wentz, then I think that helps out the defense. I think that continuity is going to help, right? You got McCain now, what is his 3rd year with us? That will help. He was kind of iffy at the beginning of the season, started coming on a little bit better. Jackson was very similar. I think people thought that he was way worse than what he actually was. So like, if you actually go back, he wasn't actually that bad. I think that he'll have a good season this year. Hopefully Ben St. Juste is going to be healthy. So I think that maybe not garbage bin, which is what they were last year, but you called Jack Del Rio mediocre. And I think that this defense can be at least mediocre. I think that, I wouldn't expect them to be in the 20 range, which I think is where they finished last year. I think that this defense has the potential to be top 15, maybe not top 10, but at least top 15.
All they have to do is improve a little, right, JP? I mean, they don't need to set the world on fire to be an improved team, because they won 7 games with a horrendous defense last year.
You make
a little.
You make a good point, particularly about the quarterbacks they face. I'm not as convinced as you two seem to be that the offense is going to be markedly better. Remember, Logan Thomas is coming off an injury. We don't know when he's going to be available. So question mark at tight end.
Sure.
They lose a Pro Bowl guard in Brandon Sheriff. They lose another starter on the offensive line. I understand they bring in guys that they feel good about, but I'm going to guess it's a little bit of a step down. And then the biggest question mark of everything is Carson Wentz.
Sure.
I would bet on him slightly that he's going to be better than what they've had, but 2 teams just got rid of him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously the season is going to hinge 100% on Carson Wentz and his ability to keep this offense moving and improve on the 7 wins that a noodle arm Taylor Heineke gave you. So, I mean, if he just plays average, if he's just an average quarterback this year and the defense is just average, with this schedule, I just don't see how everybody can't improve. They just have too many, what's the right word? Not intangibles, but there's too many things that you can't really.
The dominoes
predict.
are lining up for.
Yeah,
them.
They're lining up for the type of year that this team.
When we did the schedule, like going by way too early, kind of breaking down the schedule on wins and losses, I had shout out DMV Sports Zone.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
We do it on Junkies all the time.
Right.
There are some people like Grant Danny that are anti.
Yeah.
It's fun. Sports talk is supposed to be fun.
That's right.
Predictions.
That's right.
And my predictions, I predicted them to be a paper, like 11 and what is it? There's 17 games now, so 11 and 16. They're a paper 11 and 6.
That's even a little high for me.
It'd be but here's the thing: is the losses again are going to be against good teams. They're going to rack up a lot of victories against these teams like the Jaguars, the Bears, the ones that you expect them to beat, and they're going to lose to the teams that are actual good teams, and that they'll probably be 1 and out in the playoffs, even at 11 and 6. And so, like I said, a paper 11 and 6, but I think that they have. At least on paper, the pieces are improving, right? Carson Wentz is better than Taylor Heineke.
Are you like EB and you sing this song like every year, this optimistic, I love the weapons, the schedule's terrible, Carson Wentz is going to have a great year? Or were you a guy who was pessimistic last year, optimistic this year?
No, I'm always optimistic in starting it out. I get ash burned every year. They invited us out to OTAs, and we went, and it was just like seeing the difference. Like you could see the difference in quarterback play. Carson Wentz was airing it out. Dotson was grabbing everything, and it just looked good. And you're just like, oh, this is going to be great. I get that it's June. I get that they're not wearing pads, although apparently Jeremy Reeves did not get the memo that you shouldn't be straight up knocking people out. But it's just, this is the time for me to be optimistic. As we get closer, that's where I start to put on my realism hat and, start to talk about where they're going to go. But,
and last year I got ash burned. I'm usually pretty even that I can look at things objectively. But in last year I went to training camp and I watched Terry McLaurin and De'Ami Brown just killing guys all day long during that practice, just killing them. And I'm like, oh my God, this offense is going to be amazing. And it was Fitzpatrick at the time as well.
Right.
But, and I admitted it, maybe halfway through the year, I came on our show and I said, look, I got ash burned. And it happens to the best of us because usually I can be very objective. Did
you fall for Terrell Pryor a few years ago?
No, I was not a Terrell Pryor guy. And that one-handed corner of the end zone catch, come on, get out of here with that. I know a buddy of mine, he's actually a friend of both Nathan and I, Trevor Pedro, shout out Trevor Pedro one time. He shot me a text right after that and said, I just drafted Terrell Pryor in like the third round of his fantasy draft. And I'm like, what are you doing? It was one catch. But if you watch these guys up close, it's easy to be mesmerized by their amazing talent that they have, but then you forget that the guys on the other team, they get paid too, and they're doing everything they can to stop you or score on you with their offense. So I don't know. I'm a 10-7 guy. I think JP, are you a 7-10? Is that right? Even now, today?
I'm not convinced that they're much better offensively. I do think Carson Wentz is going to be better than Heineke, but I'm just kind of guessing that Wentz is going to be similar to what he was in Indianapolis, which if you look at the numbers was really good. But if you go beyond the numbers, he took over a team that was in the playoffs. They were worse. They decided to move on from him. So it doesn't all add up for Carson Wentz. And then I think we're kind of overlooking the loss at tight end, the loss of those offensive linemen. And then defensively, I'm certainly not convinced they're better. We also have the question mark here with Chase Young. When's he going to be back? When's he going to be ready? So I feel like they're going to be about the same. Maybe a little bit better quarterback play, and you make a good point about the schedule. But we know this team, they can pull off a win against the Packers, and then they'll lose to the Lions.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
DMV Sports Zone here with what is a successful season this year for Carson Wentz?
I think it's playoffs. Yeah. I think that there's pressure on both Ron Rivera and Carson Wentz to make the playoffs. Now, caveat, successful year could be, let's say the defense is atrocious, like really, really bad. Carson Wentz could put up numbers offensively where you're like, well, that's plenty good enough, but the defense is just atrocious. Then you bring him back. I think a successful year for Carson Wentz, and this is not numbers. It's the team decides he is their quarterback moving forward. And you just know it. You know what I mean? I have a feeling it's going to kind of be in the middle, kind of like what we saw in Indianapolis last year. But if he can return to what he was during his prime with the Philadelphia Eagles, well, then it's a no-brainer. They'll sign him to 5 years. Give him $100 million, whatever the heck you give him. That's actually cheap for a quarterback.
that's cheap, man.
That's wide receiver money right now. That's not QB money. That's wide receiver money. You keep bringing up the failed kind of season in Indianapolis. And you're right. On paper, you're looking at those stats, 27-7, 3,500 yards, completion percentage in the 60s. I think. It was low 60s, like low. 63. They definitely
10 in QB rating or QBR.
Yeah. QBR, he was up there. But if outside of QBR, if you look at a lot of those other advanced statistics, he is mid 20s range, which is not very exciting. I mean, if you're looking comparatively Taylor Heineke's worse. So there's at least that improvement there. But I mean, it does kind of caution. I'm the big nerdy stat guy.
Right.
And so those are the things I look at. And so that's where I'm going to start to temper expectations with Carson Wentz. And I think that you're right. Playoffs he needs to make the playoffs. I think that he actually, for himself, he needs to, and he's talked about this, gaining back that confidence, right? So I do think he has to have some successful games. And I was looking at his game log for Indianapolis. There was never a game he actually had more turnovers than he did touchdowns. There's a couple in there that he had, he broke even. So again, on paper, you're looking at it going, okay, that's really not that bad. There was definitely a couple clunkers in there, but we'll see. Now let's talk about his help that he's going to get. He had Taylor in Indianapolis, one of the best running backs in the league right now. Where do you think Gibson and the running attack finishes this year? Do you think he's going to get enough support from there? Because you're kind of down on the offense.
No, I think you're going to get about what you got in the last couple of years. You're going to have J.D. McKissick out of the backfield, which is a good option. I'm sure he's going to put up his numbers. I'm guessing Gibson will probably be around 1,000 yards. They're now deeper. They drafted another running back, so they're going to manage those carries. I think that they'll have a pretty solid running game. Will they have what he had in Indianapolis? No, because that guy is one of the best. But I think they're going to have a pretty good rushing attack.
Yeah, and what about the X factor, I think, in this entire offense for me is Curtis Samuel and his health. Did you find it today, him being sidelined today, as Ron called it a rest day? I don't know why you need a rest day in June when you're only, you're not even in pads yet. But did you find that a little bit alarming that Curtis Samuel needed a rest day already?
A lot alarming.
Yeah.
Of course I did. You know what Curtis Samuel feels like? Now, it didn't end up working out. I remember we had this huge argument on the show a couple of years ago when Geis kept getting injured. And this is more all the drama with Geis. But when Geis kept getting injured, I was like, he's injury prone. And I think it was EB, or like, how can you say he's injury prone? It's only happened once or twice. But then it kept happening. It's kind of like Steven Strasburg on the mound, right? He's coming back tomorrow night. That's a great story. But would either of you guys bet that he's going to make every start this season?
No,
because there's a history. So we have this history with Curtis Samuel. And I think you make a good point. It's a rest day. I think they have until minicamp now. They're off, right? Why does he need today off? It's just a troubling pattern. And I don't want to besmirch the guy. You wonder if he has the want to. You know what I mean? Like, he's G'd up. Is he one of these guys that if he feels a little tweak, he's not going to practice or play? Does he want to be out there?
I don't know. I think they have next week is mandatory mini camp.
Correct.
Right, next week. And then after that, there's nothing until training camp. I believe. I could be wrong on that.
And I think the coaches, look, they're terrified. They want him on the field. They know that if they have McLaurin, a healthy Samuel, and Jahan Dotson, that they can have a pretty potent offense.
Yeah.
But they're terrified that they're going to have this guy tear a hamstring, pull an Achilles, whatever the heck happens to this guy. They're terrified. So anytime he has any sort of tweak, they're going to put him on the sideline. He'll be on the bike. It's troubling, though. There's no doubt about it.
Now, the thing they did with him last year was he was injured. It was the groin injury. They kind of downplayed it at the beginning of the year, and then they strung it out the entire season where he was not put on IR. He was always just game day inactive. They can't do that again this year, can they? You figure if he has that tweak or something, he's got to start the year on the pup. Maybe IR, activate him. Or do you think that this, because they're so afraid of injuring him, but they want him on the field, that they're going to string it out again if there's any kind of lingering issue with him?
My guess would be that they're going to have it linger again.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope this is nothing, because before today, he had been participating in everything.
Right.
And so there was reason to be optimistic. And what you're hearing out of OTAs, they're lining him up all over the field. We saw the success of Deebo Samuel. Maybe they're dreaming it's going to be Deebo Samuel. This is another thing. This is kind of, you're saying you're a nerdy analytics guy, Nathan. I was just kind of doing the math. Like some people are going, man, this offense is going to be night and day. We had Jahan Dotson, got Carson Wentz. He can throw the deep ball, stretch the field. And I just said, well, how many plays does an offense have? About 70, 75, maybe 80 in a game. I was like, well, you're going to have half of them are going to be runs. All right. Then you're going to have dump offs to JD McKissick. You're going to have short passes. I was just saying, is it really going to be night and day, or there are going to be 4 or 5 plays where maybe Carson goes to a receiver that Taylor wasn't going to last year? It's not going to be night and day. It's the same offensive coordinator. It's the same head coach. It's going to be the same approach. Hopefully, when Curtis Samuel catches the ball, he can do something with it. Yeah. And you have more weapons. But essentially, it's going to be the same offense with hopefully better players.
Yeah. And I think EB was checking you on that in terms of there might have been a lot of plays that they took out of the book because they knew Taylor could not do that.
It's possible, but it's not like Carson Wentz is going to be dialing up deep balls every throw.
Right,
it's not going to happen.
But if he can do 2 or 3 a game, like you were saying, more than Taylor could have, that could be the difference in the win and the loss.
And it's not just because some of those were dialed up. This JP, you're absolutely right. Like the playbook's going to be the same. They dialed these up with Taylor Heineke. If you look at the first play of the Dallas game, I think it was the first one. Yep. It was a play action deep pass to Terry McLaurin. Right. But the ball was horrendously underthrown, and Diggs had the jump on it, was able to defend it, and then Terry McLaurin ended up not having anything for the rest of the game. You look at the touchdown to Cam Sims. That was another deep pass, but it was like a javelin throw coming from Heineke. These are passes I think that will be getting a little bit more simplified. De'Ami Brown was running deep routes pretty much all year long, open on a few of them, but then the rest of them was like, why are you going to even bother covering a guy 25 yards down the field? It's just it's not Taylor Heineke's game. So I do think that you're going to see just those kind of 3 or 4 plays difference, but those 3 to 4 plays difference could mean they were averaging 20 points a game last season. Now they're averaging 27 points a game. Like that's a big jump in productivity. Maybe it's not, overall statistic wise of the rest of it, you're not looking at much, but I mean, just getting those kind of different scores, if you're looking at red zone, hopefully Logan Thomas does come back, but you got Cole Turner. Guy's big. Saw him in training camp. I'm 6'4", 6'3", 6'4" in that range. He made Bates look small, and Bates is like 6'5". Do you have any kind of love for these big targets that Carson Wentz does?
I think it's helpful. Hey, look, I'm hoping that Carson Wentz returns to the form that we saw him when he would torture Washington every time they played each other. When he played Washington in the Eagles uniform, he looked like an MVP. He looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the game. So is he able to resurrect his career? This is going to be his last chance. If he doesn't do it here in Washington as a starter, it's over. So is he able to resurrect his career and make those plays, not just with his arm? He was unbelievable, like in the pocket, shedding tacklers, making plays with his legs. It's in there. You know what? I'm a terrible golfer. All right. I shoot like 100. But every once in a while, I hit one down the middle. Every once in a while, I get a green in regulation. It's in there. The problem is I can't put it together consistently, right? So Carson Wentz has a damn good quarterback in him. It's been a while since we've seen it on a consistent basis. But he's got it. Can they unlock the key and find that Carson Wentz that he was in Philadelphia when people were talking about him as an MVP, when he was killing the Redskins, killing them.
Absolutely.
Look at his game log against Washington. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, very, very successful. Almost Dan Jones-like in the fact that Dan Jones unlocks his best potential against
who calls
Washington.
him
Dan? I know.
Danny Dimes.
Dan Jones.
I'm trying to think of who's this Dan Jones.
Daniel Jones. Gus Bus here with a question. If Jamison Williams, returning from an ACL tear, has a more productive rookie season than Dotson, did we make a mistake? I'm going to go add in Chris Olave here because, of course, that was the big one. They traded back, and the Saints took Chris Olave. Jamison Williams, the pick right afterwards. If either of those guys have a big year and Dotson kind of falls flat, do you consider that a mistake?
Yeah, if there's a big gap. If Dotson has a really good year and the other guys just happen to have better years, like let's say Dotson has, I think a successful rookie campaign for him would be 60 catches, 800 yards.
That'd be amazing.
4 or 5 touchdowns. But the other guy has 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. Okay, he's better, but you're happy with Dotson. But if Dotson is like Josh Dotson, okay, and Jameson Williams is like Jamar Chase, well, yeah, you made a big mistake.
Yeah. And what about the reports that are coming out of OTAs that Dotson is turning heads? He's everything that they had hoped he would be. He's catching everything close to him. He's burning the defense. Do you put a lot of stock into that, or do you say, well, 4 years ago, the same reports were coming out about Josh Dotson?
Exactly.
And so
I put none into it.
Yeah.
We've argued about this on the show because, if you make an argument and you want to kind of confirm your opinion, you'll take a report. I told you Carson Wentz is looking great in OTAs. So I just started Googling random quarterbacks in the league. You know what they're saying about Marcus Mariota in Atlanta?
He's killing it.
He looks amazing. You know what they're saying about Drew Lock in Seattle? He looks great. He has command of the offense.
It's optimism season. It's now's the time to be happy.
Article, and I don't want to rip journalists. I'm not a journalist. People that got to put out articles every day. Props to you. You got to go to camp and every day come up with something, but it is almost evergreen. I find it very hard. I actually found one to find like negative commentary about a team in OTAs. I actually found it about Deshaun Watson. It wasn't about his sexual harassment case. I saw something which said Deshaun was looking terrible. Well, shocker. He hasn't played football in 2 years.
Yeah, right.
Probably not going to play for another year. Kevin, the PRF asks, should Washington be the litmus test for anything? Should teams, and I'm going to kind of read into this, Kevin. So Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is what I'm kind of reading into here. Should teams kind of like look at Washington as a litmus test for anything? Like, we were talking about, I talked about how they were going to be a paper 11 win team, where they lose against the good teams. Should teams going up against Washington be like, hey, we were able to run the ball against them, or that's a good thing because they got a good run defense, or we all know Washington's not a great team. I mean, JP, you picked them to win 7 games, so obviously not a litmus test in that regard. But is there anywhere in this team where they are one of the better? Are they one of the top 5 in anything in the NFL?
I got one. Tress Way. Right? I mean, he's a damn good punter. So, I mean, he's top 5 punter, I think, right? I mean, that.
But I don't know how that's a litmus test of anything.
It's not. Yeah. It's definitely
so
not.
So my answer would be no.
No,
never
at all.
No litmus test, and I don't see them in the top 5 in any particular category right now. There's no reason to believe it based on what we saw last year or even the year before.
Yeah.
And to me, one of the big questions too this year will be, what is the success of Ron Rivera? This is year 3. In my mind, if you went back to when he was hired, I think by the time you get to year 3, your expectations as a fan is, we're knocking on the door. We're in the playoffs. Maybe not a Super Bowl team in year 3, but ascending, right? Give me a year to basically shake it up and rebuild. That was a surprise year for the Washington football team, whatever they were a couple of years ago. And then year 2, you're supposed to be ascending. Year 3, you got to be there.
That's
in my mind. So I think, look, he's married to Carson Wentz. If it works out with Wentz, then I guess it'll work out for Rivera. But I'm starting to have my doubts. We all talked about this. Everybody's talked about it. You just look at his record. Look at the winning seasons. And it's starting to pile up now with losing seasons. And I think he's a good guy. I think there are a lot of positive things that come from Ron Rivera, but it's all about the record. So he better get this team winning, or you better have a really good feeling. Let's say they miss the playoffs this year. Let's say they come just short of your 10-7, Stoney, right? Let's say they're 9-8. But
a left-handed interception keeps them from the playoffs.
He's got to get there next year, But I really think they got to get there this year.
Yeah, I agree. I've been saying this for a while now that if they don't at least win 9 games, I think you got to start over because it's just another losing season. You just can't keep doing this over and over and over again and expect different results, right? The definition of insanity.
And they're set up for that too, by the way, because not restructuring Wentz is setting them up for if they have a bad season, if Carson Wentz doesn't look like the guy, you cut him next year. No, you paid $28 million this year, but then you can start fresh next year. And I think if you're starting fresh next year, if you're starting fresh next year, you should start fresh with a new coach. The Washington Commanders came out with game themes this week, and Gus Bus has this question: wouldn't the alumni homecoming game against the Packers be the perfect time to surprise Sonny Jurgensen with a jersey retirement ceremony? Everyone he loved organization-wide would be there already.
I think any time would be a great time to have that ceremony. He's one of the beloved members of the organization. Yeah. He's one of those guys, we started doing this radio show 26 years ago now. And when we started with WJFK at the time, they had the rights to the Washington Redskins games. And we got to meet Sonny in the booth. He was just this larger than life figure, always smoking a cigar, big smile on his face. Everybody loves the guy. So, of course, yes, against the Packers or any game, I think would be great.
Yeah, I agree that it's something that's long overdue. They need to get that done ASAP. One other thing from camp today that got overshadowed by all the Jack Del Rio, the JDR news today. Deron Payne was a no-show at camp today, right? And that was his first time he's missed camp. The voluntary OTAs. Coach Rivera said he will be there next week at the mandatory camp. Is this something that's going to be an issue through training camp this year?
If he shows up next week, I'm inclined to believe he wants to get paid and will be there. When Chase Young didn't show up to the first round of OTAs, people were wondering about him on our show. Some people were calling him a diva. And the head coach said, I've been talking to him. He's going to show up. He was kind of vague. I didn't necessarily believe Ron Rivera. And then Chase Young showed up. So not a big deal. So this may not be a big deal as well. I wouldn't go crazy about it. I think the likelihood that he's a member of the organization next year is probably low. I think he would love to get some sort of an extension, and clearly they don't want to give it to him. They chose John Allen.
Yeah.
Rightfully so, in my opinion, but I might be a touch biased. The going back to the themes, the game themes, is there anything that really stood out to you? We liked it in the idea that they're trying to improve the fan experience, but there was one particular thing that we had an issue with. But for you, was there anything that kind of stood out?
Not really. Curious about the mascot. What is that, on January 1st? They're going to unveil the mascot.
Yep. Yeah, second to last game.
They're going to try a blackout. I think that's the Vikings game against Kirk.
Yep. Military salute to service game. Yep.
You always wonder if there are going to be people there. That's the problem.
Right. It's always the problem. Yeah.
Thank goodness you guys didn't talk about the stadium stuff, but who knows what's going to happen there? It seems like nobody really wants to build a stadium in their state or their district.
Yeah. The one particular thing we had an issue with was actually the whiteout game. Okay. Last game of the season against Dallas. Just seems maybe not as well thought out. One, Dallas has a prominent uniform, white is kind of prominent on their uniform. So, is it really kind of going to give that kind of home field advantage? I know all teams have that white jersey, but for them, it feels a little bit more at home. Granted, FedEx feels like home for them anyways. Plus it's a winter game, and we had Tailgate Ted on, and he brought up this. who has a white jacket? Who's bringing a white jacket to like an early January game? So, that's the one that we're kind of like.
Upstairs. My wife has about 5 of them, but you're right. Guys tend not to have them.
Right.
My wife has so many. I was like, don't you have 2 of these? Oh, no, this one has a hood. The other one doesn't have a hood.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Well, JP, we want to thank you for coming on.
Sorry about
of course,
technical difficulties early.
No
always
problem.
love having some time with you guys. You guys have a fun show. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and we appreciate you. We know you got to get to game 3's coming up in about 30 minutes. And you're going to be up all night watching that, right?
I don't know, man. I was a big Luka guy. Like, my heart was kind of taken there. I was kind of grasping at the Dallas Mavericks making a run. This series, this is an evergreen complaint. I'm a big NBA guy, and during the playoffs, almost every night you have a game. It's kind of like when the Caps have gone on a run, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, when you get to the NBA Finals, you get all this momentum. I've been watching the playoffs for 6 weeks. Then there's like a week off. Then there's a game. Then there's like 2 days off. Then there's a game. Then another 2 days off.
Yeah.
It feels like it's taken forever now since the conference finals.
Yeah. And the 9 o'clock.
You know what? I'm not disciplined. You're probably right. I'll say I'm going to turn it off at halftime, right? That's my thing. In my head, I'm like, I'm going to turn it off at halftime. And then let me just watch like one series. And if the game's close, then I end up staying up late. But a lot of these games haven't been close.
No, they haven't been close. Yeah. Third quarter, you're gonna turn it off in the third quarter, thinking it's gonna blow out, and then the other team's gonna come back, and you're gonna wonder why you ever went to bed in the first place, and then you'll have to catch all of Game 4. Of course, you can catch JP Flaim on 106.7 The Fan. He's part of the Junkies, the legendary Junkies. You can also, there's a special going on for Still Barking. If I can recall correctly, we're going to get signed books if you order.
It's tweaked a little bit. So let me just throw this out there. So I had a special where I had all the boys from the show and our 2 producers personalize it, meaning they didn't just sign it, but personalize it to each of the first 50. So it was a Father's Day edition, 50 books. Those sold out in 2 days. So now for Father's Day, I'm saying I will personalize the rest of the books purchased here thereafter. But I'll tell you the truth. I have 2 boxes left. After that, I'm farming it all out to Amazon. But for now, you can buy on stillbarking.com. But once I'm done with these 2 boxes, this is kind of inside geeky. I would buy the books, and then I was shipping them to the people that were buying the books. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, because I make more money that way.
Yeah.
Amazon would take a bigger piece of the pie if I just said, go buy it on Amazon. So I actually disincentivize people from buying on Amazon. The price on Amazon is much higher. It's $35 versus $28. But the shipping business, it's not fun.
Right.
I got to print labels. I got to,
just got to carry them boxes.
It just takes a while. All right.
Yeah.
It's not hard work. A lot of people have real jobs and work hard. All right. But I'm sick of putting labels and going to the post office every day. I've been blessed. Sold over 4,200 books. Maybe it's around 4,300 now. It's been great. And most people have liked the book. I appreciate it. Is that a sound effect?
Yeah.
We got a whole.
You saw our commercial, right? Our Pacers commercial. I know you're big into running. You're still running with Farley and getting the accountability group.
A little bit, like me, Farley, and this other guy, Richmond John, who's been a big supporter of the show. We kind of go back and forth in text. So guilt works. My mom's not alive anymore, but I will tell you, she was a big proponent of guilt, whether it was you haven't visited me lately, you don't call me enough, you haven't been to church. Guilt makes you do things, right? So the accountability group, you see one guy went running like, I guess I better do it. 2 days. I got to go and do it. I did see the Pacer spot, and I thought I heard a sound effect earlier, but I thought maybe it was my phone and technical difficulties. So I appreciate the applause. Stillbarking.com. I will personalize all the books before Father's Day. I think I have about 35 or 40 left. And then, like I said, the book will still be out there for people to buy. It'll just be on Amazon.
Straight from Amazon.
All right. Well, you heard it here. You got to get it from JP himself. Get it personalized before Father's Day. Just about 40 books left there. So make sure you get that. Make sure you tune in to the Junkies on 106.7 The Fan. When we come back, it's going to be Commanders Grab Bag with the Sonar and I. JP, thanks for joining us. and we hope to have you on again sometime in the future.
Yep.
Anytime.
Thanks, JP.
Always a pleasure to have one of those gentlemen on the channel with us. And you are, in fact, just stuck with myself and Stoner here for a Commander's grab bag. Is there anything still howling? I like that from metaphor there with howling spelled like our third string QB for our audio listeners there. Gus Bus here. With mascot should be Master Chief from Halo video game series if they want to get the young fan base.
Yeah, but that dude's not going to be around forever. Like this Halo video games are not going to be around forever. So I don't know.
Yeah,
you got to have something that's going to be evergreen.
You're absolutely right. Mario, which they play the sound, he's not been around forever. You know, Sonic isn't big right now. It's not like he wasn't big in the 80s. You're right. The Master Chief has an absolute shelf life. Stoner. Master Chief will be around for a bit.
Well, you know what I mean. He's not going to be around 80 years from now when we got chips implanted in our head and we're just sitting in a chair all day experiencing life.
Metaphor. I almost brought up your first comment here. JP ain't a fan of the team. Why we had JP on, but
I mean, JP's objective. That's why I like talking to him about these things, because he's not a blind homer. He's very objective about when he talks about this team. He's just not going to say, oh, Carson Wentz is great and this guy's great and everybody's great and they're going to be awesome and they're going to win 11 games. No, so not being a fan of the team is very helpful to balance out what they do. And I do want to say that I don't think we say it enough. We appreciate all the junkies except for Jason. He doesn't do these sorts of things.
Lurch isn't going to come on ever.
Yeah, Lurch is never going to come on. But JP, EB, and Cakes have come on this show multiple times each, and they don't have to. They don't really gain anything by it, and we appreciate it a whole heck of a lot. So thanks to JP. And I do like that he's not a fan. That gives a better perspective because he still covers the team. He still talks about him every single day and talks to beat reporters and all that. But he just has a little bit different view of the team not being a fan. And I'm going to do something, Nathan, that has never, ever been done on this show before.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
Yeah.
You're going to leave in the middle of it? Because we've done that one. We've done that bit.
We have. I mean, I'm coming back. I've been drinking a lot of water. You got to give me 30 seconds. That's all I'm asking. Cover me for 30 seconds.
I am certain I can cover 30 seconds without you.
We've
got some things I want to talk about here anyways within the chat. He didn't even, I'm going to remove him. What is he doing? I'm not going to keep him up there. Doug with the Band Geek hoping for decent rework of Hail to the Redskins and Sharp Unis for the band. The band, I've talked about this before. I'm a Washington fan. I'm not actually from the area. I'm an Air Force brat. My dad served and we moved around. My dad's actually not from this area either, though. He is actually from upstate New York, but he too was a band geek. And in the 70s, he loved seeing the band. And that's what got him into being a Washington Redskin fan. So I'm with you, Doug. I want, even though I'm not personally a band geek, I played a couple years in the band. My thing was more theater and sports. I agree. I hope that this is good. And we talked a little bit about it in our video detailing out the themes. This is where, like, you want it to be something where you're at a bar and you can sing Hail to Washington or whatever it's going to be called, Hail to the Commanders, with everybody in the bar, people you don't know, right? So that's something I also hope for. Sharp unis for the band. I love that they're bringing it back. So hopefully that will be something that is successful. Welcome back, Stoner. You're muted, so don't pull a JP on me.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thanks. I'm sorry. That's very unprofessional, but this was just one of those things I couldn't.
We have been going over an hour at this part.
All right, so let's do a real quick grab bag. real quick. We already kind of touched on it a little bit, but Steven Strasburg is starting tomorrow night. Is that a big deal?
Yes. He's
even
the
in
guy
a lost
that
season already.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to see him. He's one of your star players. It's like if you're trying to tell me like if Juan Soto sat out the rest of the season, that's not a big deal.
Sure.
No, you want to see your star players. People are paying to go to these games.
Yeah.
And even if they're losing 12-2 as they did yesterday, that's, you at least want to see the players, right? Because people go out there regardless of the season, maybe a little less when they're losing, but they still want to see some of these players. They want to see some of the development happening. And so, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It is a big deal.
All right. Very good. All right. Do you have any thoughts? And I'm just going to, if you don't, we're just going to go right past it. Do you have any thoughts on the new Live Tour, which is the new golf tour?
The
Saudi Arabian government backed tour.
Who's the highest ranked player they have right now? The Johnson guy?
Right,
15?
Dustin Johnson, yeah.
Yeah, at 15. Call me when they get a top 5 guy.
Okay, well, that's coming. I promise you that. That's coming. Bryson DeChambeau's probably coming. Patrick Reed's probably coming. And then after, let's say this season is successful, right? This first year, which there's only 8 events, I think, in the entire year. And these guys are getting paid an absurd amount of money, plus
it's oil backed.
Plus the the purse for the actual event is an absurd amount of money. So if it goes through and everybody gets paid like they're promised to get paid, and they're coming back for season 2, you're probably going to see everybody go, because the money is outrageous. The amount of money that Phil Mickelson is getting $200 million to go play, guaranteed money. It doesn't matter what he does on the golf course.
Yeah, win, lose, whatever placement he has.
$200 million.
He's also
Everybody has a
much
price.
bigger name. Yeah.
So I just was wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah. Like I said, to me, it's not going to be a story until they grab somebody within the top 5.
Okay. Did you see that Baker Mayfield has been excused from Browns mandatory minicamp next week?
Yeah. Great. Because why do you want him there? Because
Deshaun Watson is not going to play 17 games.
He's not. He absolutely isn't.
So
but you're also not going to give who was it?
I don't even know.
It is a name you're familiar with. It is a name I think it's Jacoby Brissett. Someone correct me if I'm wrong there. But
right.
But you're not going to get Baker Mayfield to play for you this season. He's just not going to do it.
Wow. Okay.
Period.
He'll take the season. It's going to be a lost season for Cleveland, because Deshaun Watson be lucky to play half the year.
Well, that's the risk that they knew they were taking when he had these allegations. Now, of course, there's more allegations. And somebody up, I don't remember where, someone had commented, Jack Del Rio's best friend right now is Deshaun Watson. The only reason why, Jack Del Rio did what he needed to do, which was apologize for the dust up comment. He's not going to take any more questions on this. Okay. Yeah. I know you kind of got on me for, projecting and all this. That's just my prediction. He's not taking it. He would not be smart to take it. HR, PR, whoever's his handler is going to tell him, lay low for a while. And Deshaun Watson's story is going to be the one that people are going to focus on, where he's doing child pose and all this other just raunchy stuff.
Well, he's doing what?
The child pose. Have you not seen that one? That's in the latest allegations, that he would do the child pose and ask it's lay on your back and lay on your back, grab your toes. It's a yoga pose.
Oh.
And you're so you grab your feet.
All right.
And he asked them to massage in some certain areas.
Now that visual is in my head. Thanks for that.
Metaphor, Jack Del Rio did tweet an apology.
Yep.
Whether or not you choose to believe in it is entirely going to be up to you. What we were talking about in regards to that, and actually, I think I still have the apology. I do actually have it up right here. I can actually bring that on here. So Jack Del Rio's, this is his tweet. I made comments earlier today in referencing the attack that took place on the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. Referencing that situation as a dust-up was irresponsible and negligent, and I am sorry. I stand by my comments condemning violence in communities across the country. I say that while also expressing my support as an American citizen for peaceful protest in our country. I have fully supported all peaceful protests in America. I love, respect, and support all my fellow coaches, players, and staff that I work with and respect their views and opinions. And that's Jack Del Rio on his Twitter. It was about 3 hours ago. So we're recording live Wednesday. So that was about 5:45, just before 6 that he did that.
Your DMs are showing too, by the way. I just thought
wrap up with, we just had a, this little show, a little behind the scenes there.
Pull back the curtain a little bit. Yeah. I thought that was funny though. Yeah. So, all right, last one. Ready? I mean, we've been talking forever. Plus, game 3. We got to watch game 3. Oh, by the way, I missed a lot of game 2 because it started at 8:00 and I thought all the games were starting at 9. But on Sunday, it was at 8:00, and I was doing something else thinking, okay, 9:00, I got to get down for the game. I missed like most of the first half. Anyway. All right, here's the last one. Did you see the guy, and I probably should have prepped this with video, but I don't have it. But did you see the guy who juggled 3 Rubik's Cubes and solved all 3 of them while juggling?
No, I didn't see it, but I have seen that trick done before.
Not trick. It wasn't a trick.
Skill.
The skill.
Okay.
Of a guy juggling.
So if somebody does a trick shot in basketball, is that wrong to call it a trick shot? That's because that's a skill, right? So we call it skill shot. It's still a trick shot, and it's still a trick. Juggling and solving it. Yes, it takes skill, but it doesn't mean that it's not a trick. Trick just means like fancy, like you're okay. That's not something you normally do, right? Like solving a Rubik's Cube is simple. Trick would be like, here, I'm going to solve it while behind my head or something like that. That's a trick.
Yeah, but he did it in a world record time of like 4 minutes and 13 seconds or something like that. But yeah, he can only make one move each time or with each hand, maybe, while he's throwing one before he throws it. He makes a move with his right hand and with his left hand and then switches. That's just amazing. I don't know. I wouldn't call that a trick, but I guess. Trick. Man, I'm thinking trick like he's like. You're
thinking magic.
Like illusion, yeah.
Illusion. Yeah. No, that's not it. I'm talking trick as in like a trick shot.
Okay, sure. That's
okay.
I just thought that was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life.
It is pretty amazing.
Probably one of 10 people in the world that can do that.
Another comment here. Cup has the most guaranteed money for a wide receiver at $75 million. That should be Terry's starting point for negotiations if the team wants to get a deal done before the start of the season. That's from Gus.
He's not getting the most guaranteed money in the NFL. He's not. Sorry. He's getting AJ Brown type money. He's not getting Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams. What was the other guy that got a ton of money? Not the Christian Kirk guy, but wasn't there another receiver, DeAndre Hopkins maybe? I don't remember, but he's not getting that kind of money.
Yeah.
He's getting AJ Brown type money, and that's going to put him in the top 7 or 8.
I think that he'll be close to a top 5 paid wide receiver when he gets his contract, which I do expect to happen before the end of July.
Oh, it's going to happen before that. I know everybody talks about how, Tyreek Hill. Thank you, Kevin. That's exactly right, Tyreek Hill. Everybody's talking about how last year the Commanders did the Logan Thomas and Jonathan Allen contracts like halfway or towards the end of training camp. Well, those guys weren't holding out for a new deal. And if Terry doesn't have a deal by training camp, he's going to hold out, just like he's doing in OTA.
Has he said that?
No,
I don't think he said that.
But
so you're projecting, Stoner.
Yes,
you're
correct.
projecting.
Yes, that's correct. I'm admitting it too.
Based off of nothing. I told you I was making a prediction. You just didn't want to hear me. Now, here's the thing. I don't believe that, Stoner. I think that he's only not showing up to the voluntary stuff. He'll show up to the mandatory things.
Yeah, but he's not. He's going to show up to the mandatory stuff, but he's not going to be out there in pads and running passes and risking injury. Not going to do it. It's not going to happen. He's made less money. There was one great stat out there. I think our buddy, one of our guys, Tim Meek, put out a stat out there that one of the wide receivers who got drafted this year is going to make more money this year than Terry's made in his career because he was a first rounder. And
I think Dotson by signing his contract is making more money this season than Terry's made in his first 3. That's the difference between being drafted in the first round and being drafted in the third round. That's why you want to get drafted in the first round. That's just that's the facts of life.
He's going to be at mandatory minicamp, which is a glorified walkthrough. These mini camps are. I mean, there's a little bit more to that. He's not going to be out there running routes. He's not going to be out there in pads when it comes to that in training camp if he doesn't have a new deal. He's not going to risk it. He's not going to risk $75 million, as we just saw, to be in training camp. He's not going to do it. He would be dumb to do it. I'll just say that. And he's not dumb. So
who was it? It was the running back, Cohen, right? Tariq Cohen just injured himself. It was a couple weeks ago, while doing like a live workout.
But I mean, working out is different. But I'm talking about being out there and doing drills. And
you had Hall who slipped in the kitchen and tore his Achilles, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it could happen that way, but you're just not going to risk it with practice
with your cohorts, with your teammates.
You're gonna be
as a captain, you wouldn't do something
battling
like
for catches against he's not going to do it, and I don't think he should either.
Well, let us know what you think. Let us know what you think Terry's worth. Let us know what you would pay him, and put that out in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Of course, we stream live every Wednesday, 7:30 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Then we push this out on audio platforms. We're sponsored by Pacers Running. We had a great show. Want to thank everybody for jumping in the chat there. I know we didn't show quite a lot of the Jack Del Rio takes that people were sharing when we had JP on. We're moving that conversation. Hopefully the conversation keeps moving. Hopefully it remains a civil conversation. And I think if you catch our channels on Twitter, you'll know exactly where we stand on that one. It was just stupid things happening all across the board. So, but we appreciate everybody jumping in, having fun with us with JP, and until next time.
What's that, Nathan?
Be a fan.
We love Washington, and we some die-hard fans. Yeah, we are. You know we keep it on 10. Let's talk about the offense. 1, 2, 3, let's go. And they gifted. We are ref the district. Podcast. Come on now and join us. You join it.